Hello and welcome to the video. More specifically, welcome to 100 Moons in Swiftclan, focusing on the leaders and deputies. Now before we get started, if you have no idea what ClanGen is, this might not make a whole lot of sense to you. But the Quickie Notes version is that ClanGen is a role-playing game based off of a book series that focuses on the lives and politics of cats that live in the wild. Not super realistically, mind you, but that is the premise. With that in mind, some of the things that you might want to know about before heading into the video is that things such as animal death, kitten death, violence, illness, murder, and complicated relationships will all come up during this series. If those are not things you're interested or want to hear about, this may not be the video for you. But if you do want to know all of the juicy drama, feel free to continue. Let's get started with the very first leader of Swiftclan herself, Hailstar. As one might expect, Hailstar was one of the founding members of Swiftclan. She and the others traveled a great distance to find this land of grass and plains, fleeing from a home where one clan ruled all. In her previous home, she was but a lowly warrior, tasked with her orders, and she followed them dutifully, until things changed. On the journey, with all the challenges they faced, she grew into a leader that cats could depend upon. And so when Star Clan gave them this territory, there was no question who would be named leader. Hailstar is an astute cat, who very quickly realized that her clan was at a great disadvantage in this new land. They already had neighbors, established clans around them, and if it came down to a fight, they would lose. They needed numbers, and they needed them quickly. They needed relationships and allies. So, she decided to start her clan with an open paw policy, where any who wanted to join, be it an abandoned kit, a loner, a kitty pet, or even an ex-clan cat, could join Swiftclan, so long as they were willing to be a loyal warrior. The first one to actually fall into her paws was an abandoned kit, found by the two-leg place snuggled up to some sheep. She and her deputy, Hatchhowl, took the little thing in and named it Lamb in honor of the woolly beast that kept it alive. There would be many more to come after her, from all walks of life. One in particular raised some hair, for little Droplet Kit was full of spitfire. He was a determined little guy, and he would do anything. And for a time, Hailstar worried he might be the downfall of the clan. This was because Riverspot, the medicine cat, had foreseen a prophecy that foretold of a single droplet turning a tide, and either bringing the clan to ruin or to greatness. During her reign as leader, Hailstar managed to make quite a few relationships, and gain the trust of many friends. One such was Windfern, a beautiful senior warrior, who Hailstar, well, she would have liked for more from their relationship. However, Windfern was determined. She wanted to be a mother, and unfortunately Hailstar simply could not give her that. But hope was not lost for her love life. While observing the little Droplet Kit, who turned into a paw, and then into a warrior, Hailstar grew ever closer to the medicine cat, Riverburn. They had always been close, but over the moons as the clan grew and changed, their relationship grew and changed as well. At last, Hailstar asked the question, and was delighted when Riverburn agreed to be her mate. Everything was going great. The new deputy Topher was unconventional, and a bit erratic at times, but loyal and strong. Someone the clan could look to in times of crisis. And unfortunately, crisis came. Lightning Clan declared war on Swiftclan, and fighting broke out. Lives were lost. Young ones. Hailstar was shaken by the war, and while it ended, she worried that her policies had led to this somehow, that she had not been strict enough, firm enough, but she was older now. and her choices had already been made. There was no turning back. Hailstar had managed to lead her clan well into her old age, without losing a single life. However, Hailstar would have given all her lives to prevent what happened. Fire broke through, the plains catching alight in winter of all seasons, the grass dry and dead, the snow too thin. It barreled through the camp, and cats died. Most managed to escape. However, one of the casualties was Riverburn herself. Hailstar howled with her grief and became despondent. She didn't care anymore what happened to the clan, to her clanmates, to the territory. And when her deputy Topher approached her about stepping down as leader, she agreed without question. Now just a warrior, Hailfruit would keep her warrior name till the day she died. And it wasn't to be long. While checking the borders, Hailfruit's patrol happened upon a loose dog. It had been hunting with its two-leg. It charged them, slobbering teeth, flashing fangs. The rest of the patrol escaped, but Hailfruit did not. She joined StarClan and was finally reunited with her mate, Riverburn. Topher, the second deputy under Hailstar, was once again a founding member of the clan. A little bit younger than Hailstar, Topher was unpredictable, to say the least. He would just as soon greet a stranger with a welcoming purr as he would try to rip their fur off. No one really knew what he would do, and perhaps not even him until he acted. Nonetheless, his loyalty to the clan was unquestionable. And so, when little Lampaw was to be apprenticed, it went to him. Now, Topher has never been one for kits or young cats. He simply doesn't find them, well, appealing. And Lampaw faced that, and she was pretty insecure about it. Topher knows how to fight his way through issues, he knows how to outrun problems, but neither of those would help his apprentice. So he did something he prefers never to have to do. He talked out the problem, and was a listening ear for her insecurities. It helped, and they grew closer. And he was perhaps the most surprised of anyone at the pride he felt seeing Lambsplash be named a warrior in the clan. But that pride and affection came at a cost. Lambsplash ended up dying in a tragic way that Topher just couldn't wrap his mind around. Had she not trusted him with the information? Why didn't she come to him? He could have helped her. He would have helped her. Had he been too cold all this time? He didn't know. He would never know. He just kept going. Being deputy was a responsibility he wasn't entirely happy to receive. Being responsible for others simply wasn't something he wanted to do. But when Hailstar appointed him the responsibility, he took it on, as he always does without complaint, and he grew into the role, even if it took some time. He was a strong warrior, and the other cats of the clan respected him for it. It even earned him a mate in Inky Nose. Not that he was Tom's only mate, but it was something. And while he had never wanted kids, seeing his first kids born, it was amazing. Suddenly he had these creatures that mattered more than him. Creatures that he wanted to show good examples to be there for, to care about. It was life-changing, to say the least. But just like with Lambsplash, that bond, it came at a cost that would come later. It started with Conifer Paw, a little medicine cat apprentice who should have been safe from all harm. Instead, was found dead at the Hyacinth clan border. There was no proof as to what happened. Topher knew. Apprentices don't just end up dead for no reason. But Hailstar wanted peace. She didn't want a war. And while Topher wanted blood, he had to let it go. But it wasn't the last kit he would lose. In fact, he would lose most of his kits. To the point where he felt like StarClan was cursing him for what he didn't know, but he was sure that they were. And now Popstar, he felt like he was hearing voices in the wind. All his kits that had been lost. All of them calling to him, begging him to save them. And he couldn't. Not from being buried alive, not from being murdered by enemies, not from being killed by a dog. He couldn't save any of them. So many times he had wished it had been him in their stead. A kid's not supposed to go before their parents. But it wasn't. And as his years drug on, he knew he needed to find a way to save his kids. And if it could only be one, it would only be one. But he had to find a way. And he knew of one. After the fire that burned the camp, Hailstar was despondent. She could barely look after herself, let alone the clan. And Topher, he knew he needed to do something. He became Popstar, leader of Swiftclan. And with it came more responsibility than he had ever had. But with it came an ability he never had before either. The chance to name and appoint deputies. His first was Tadpolefoot. A rather skittery sort of fellow, and one that Topher didn't always get along with. But he was an intelligent cat, loyal to the clan, and always had the clan's best interests at heart. At the time, he was a good pick. But Topher knew that Tadpolefoot was no leader. And being a leader came with a great responsibility, a great gift, and in some ways a great curse. Flintbrush, his daughter, bold little Flintbrush, had just become a warrior. And it was a perfect time. He announced her a mentor, and in the same breath, denounced Tadpolefoot as his deputy, and named Flintbrush as his replacement. The clan called it nepotism. They were right. But if it was the last thing he would do, he would make sure one of his kids would outlive him. And with 9 lives to go on, Flintbrush would. Tadpolefoot wasn't born to Swiftclan, nor was he one of the founding cats. Instead, he was one of a litter that was abandoned by their mother to be raised by another cat who had joined the clan, Esper. While Esper was a good cat, and motherly enough, Tadpolefoot always wondered why he and his siblings were abandoned. They were so young. Were they unwanted? Did their mother just think they had a better chance? It was a question he would never know the answer to, but it was one he always wondered at. Unlike his siblings, who were pretty darn confident, Tadpolefoot had always been on the nervous side, uncertain about things. But he was diligent in his learning. He always listened to his mentor, always followed through on orders, did his best. But life was not easy. Tadpolefoot seemed to have a propensity for attracting the furry things with a lot of fangs, from foxes to dogs. It seemed like they followed him. He nearly lost his tail to one. Thanks to our clan, Riverspot was there to save him. But it left a lasting fear in him of those creatures. And when his clanmates were killed by them, it was horrific. He saw Garlic Dawn, one of Topher's children, ripped to shreds before his eyes. He had managed to make it into the tree before the dog caught them. Garlic Dawn hadn't been so lucky. But for all his terror, he wasn't unloved. The strongest warrior of the clan, Droplet Burrow, saw something in him. Something in his kind nature. And the two became mates. They even welcomed a kitten to the world, little Howlpaw. Droplet Burrow didn't much care for the name, one way or the other. Howlpaw was perfectly fine for them. But Tadpolefoot knew it was a reference to Hatch Owl, a cat he had much looked up to and admired. But then war broke out. Lightning Clan wanted blood, and it was a horrific time. Tadpolefoot just wanted it to end. He wanted peace. He didn't want to fight. Droplet Burrow felt differently. A warrior through and through, Droplet Burrow wanted blood and reveled in it. He loved the taste of battle on his tongue, the feel of death beneath his claws. Tadpolefoot couldn't understand. They were different kinds of cats. They always had been. It never had been an issue. And then Howlpaw died. During a battle with Lightning Clan, Howlpaw died, killed by an enemy warrior. His son, so young, gone. Tadpolefoot didn't want any more fighting. He didn't want to lose anyone else. He wanted peace, and was grateful when it came. Droplet Burrow didn't feel the same. Peace was giving up on revenge. Peace was giving up on their son. Peace was everything wrong in Droplet Burrow's mind. But Tadpolefoot just wanted to move on, to have a new life, to have love. But ever more, nights with Droplet Burrow turned into arguments. And he found himself drawn to another cat, to the pretty Fringe Pelt, who would listen to his woes, and to the silky-furred Inky Nose, who's tended to his wounds. Being named a deputy was not something Tadpolefoot had ever expected to have happen. He knew better than anyone else that he was hardly well fit for it. A coward like him, being a deputy? Horrible idea. But Popstar had named him one, and he did his best for as long as he could. But after the war, he didn't have it in him, and the clan knew. He was grateful when Topher finally released him of the position, even if he, like everyone else, had questions about naming Flintbrush as deputy in his stead. But more than anything, he was glad to finally go back to just being a warrior. Flintbrush was born to Popfur and Inky Nose, along with her siblings, and she had always been rather bold, certainly the most outspoken of their siblings, for she wasn't afraid to tell their parents when they were wrong, and in her mind, they were often wrong. Popfur was a leader and had little time for his kids. Inky Nose, a medicine cat who had been spurned by death so many times that they were afraid to get attached. And Yellow Ember? Well, if a cat didn't look like Yellow Ember, he didn't much think they were his at all, regardless of who his mates were. Flintbrush found this wrong, and said as such. Her parents weren't the only cats that Flintbrush took issue with in her youth. Her mentor, Fringe Patch, was a cat that, well, Flintbrush kind of felt was more beauty than brain, which was proven to her by the multiple injuries the beautiful she-cat sustained. Luckily for her, Droplet Burrow, who was mentoring one of her brothers, was more than willing to take her on as well. Now that is a warrior worth learning from. The clan had always been open to others, and Flintbrush got to see many cats come in from the outside. Some, like Bee, wouldn't last long, but others, like Trip, well, they drew her curiosity. What was it like being a kitty pet? Did they miss it? How were they adjusting to clan life? Over the moon, she grew a little bit closer to her father. She worries after him. Popstar... She hears him muttering sometimes. speaking as if cats she can't hear nor see are speaking back to him. As a warrior, she was a spunky young cat, ready to prove herself. She believed in Swiftclan and the legacy it held. Even so, she hardly expected to be named a mentor so soon after her warriorship, but she would do her best for the young kid. She would see that little tadpole Paw would become a great warrior and prove herself as a true mentor. But to be deputy as well? It's an honor. It's a privilege. It's something Flintbrush doesn't know if she's ready for. And that is where we're going to leave off for Flintbrush's story. Obviously, she has a whole lot more life left in her, but that's a story for another day. In terms of the illustrations you guys have seen, you might have noticed that most of them have shading except for Flintbrush. Well, that's because Flintbrush, well, she was both the third cat I illustrated and the last cat I illustrated, because I hated her design, and in fact I reworked it 3 times before settling on this one. Am I entirely happy with it? It exists. That's good enough, right? However, while doing this series, as you will quickly see in the videos following this one, shading quickly fell off. Way too much work, there were too many cats to draw, color and line work, that's it. Shading had to go. With that in mind, I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you stick around to see the next one, whenever that one gets published. Probably this year. We'll go with that. Call it a New Year resolution, right? I hope you enjoyed. Have a good one. Bye!